Welcome tonight, ladies and gentlemen, from Orange County, California. We are back from our long, unanticipated hiatus. This is the Now Granted podcast. I am Mikey, and these are our co-hosts Ryan and Kevin. Tonight we're swinging swinging back into action as Justice Kavanaugh has returned or has been confirmed. Conor McGregor Conor McGregor losing to the Eagle, and much more on tonight's episode. How are you both gentlemen doing tonight?
Doing fantastic.
I'm doing well.
All right. I know we've been gone. We've been separated, and that's largely due to me. Been more or less in and out of town, every other day. So I'm glad I get to kind of sit down, kind of put my roots in just a tad until I got to pick him back up here in the next day or two. So, but that's just how things go.
Cool. Yeah, me and Ryan were struggling to get our schedules together too, so it's not just your fault, Mikey.
Yeah, I've been slammed.
Yeah, I could imagine, knowing everything that's been kind of going on, at least, or at least some of the things that have been going on. So it's kind of hard to follow everything too. So I could imagine knowing everything. So, do you want to talk about Kavanaugh first, or do we want to kind of save that for last? I don't know. Up to you guys. And what are you guys' hot takes?
Can you talk about what you've been doing yet, or no?
Well, I could say. I just can't really discuss in detail, but was it me and another coworker through my company? We were catering on the set of The Bachelor while filming for the new season. So.
So you kind of had a fly on the wall eye view of that whole.
Yes, but I can't say anything.
Oh, of course not. I wouldn't ask you to.
Of course not. But it was. I mean, there were some long days where we're more or less gone out. We leave one day, we come back the next day, type deal.
That's the way it goes. But I bet it was nice to work a lot. I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. But the worst thing about it is that the government takes takes a good amount of money in taxes. It's like, hey, look, you made more. We're gonna take more.
Yep.
I think I'm under the opinion that if you're working overtime and double time, that the government should actually take less. But that's just me. No, really, I think that's just me though. Just because what's the point of working, overtime? At least overtime and double time if it's compensating you for working over the allotted 8 hours, and then the government just comes on the back end and just takes everything that you really made on the overtime and the double time.
Yeah. No, I understand.
So that's probably that's kind of the downside, and I kind of knew that was going to happen. Well, everyone, I think everyone knows at this point that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of sucks. It just sucks. But nevertheless, it was fun. It's a fun experience. But that's pretty much about it. I can't really say anything more. But I just can't. Because that's all contract. So
yeah.
Did you see anything interesting?
How about you two? Did I see anything interesting?
Yeah, on the set.
There's plenty of interesting things on the set, but that might fall into kind of how the plot rolls along. So.
Oh, okay. I just was curious how close to the action you were.
Fairly.
Did you actually see what was being recorded?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You did.
Mm-hmm. So
Cool.
no, I was pretty close. So, but it's fun. I mean, it's it's really cool. And like once like I'll talk about it. I'll talk more about it when the season airs and starts going, rolling through. But right now, I can't talk really about anything. So,
Understandable.
yeah,
Makes
but,
sense.
yeah.
So what are we gonna get into first?
Well, probably the biggest thing going on right now is the Kavanaugh hearing, or at least the Kavanaugh confirmation.
Yeah, everything's just been so insane around that.
Yeah, it's just been a massive shit show for the last 2 weeks. You know, it's just so I don't know. Before I say anything, what do you guys think about it?
I just can't believe that that he got nominated all the way back in July. So it was July, August, all of September, and it's September 7th, and he was finally confirmed on the 6th. It's just that's such a long process,
October.
Yep.
Well, some people were saying that it wasn't, that was too little time. That yeah. Well, at least when the list came out in July, to now being nominated in October, that itself that is too short of time for the confirmation. So I mean,
it's a little crazy.
Oh, but I think probably an interesting thing that I like to maybe would be up to observation is now what is the DNC's, or let's say the Democratic Party's view on the FBI now, because if you think about it, they've been using the FBI as a crutch to really kind of go after the administration. When it comes to the Mueller investigation or the Mueller probe, the Russian investigation, pretty much more or less everything else, right? They've always kind of halted everything and thrown it to the FBI for the investigation. And it seems like now that the FBI did their comprehensive but yet very limited investigation, or seventh investigation of Brett Kavanaugh, it seems like they might not like the FBI anymore.
Well, I feel like they had been kind of counting on the Mueller probe to turn anything up for them. They had hoped something would come up with the Ford testimony and that whole nonsense, and it's just not turning out the way the Democrats need it. And the problem is they're not running on any kind of a platform. What do they want to change? They just want to impeach Trump and I guess destroy the economy. I mean,
yeah.
As far as policies go, the only stuff I've heard from Democrats has been, I hope that there's an economic recession so that Trump looks bad.
Yeah, that's really disappointing because I don't know. I was watching a YouTuber today that I've been following the last couple of years, and he was just kind of like talking about why he doesn't vote, why he didn't vote in the last couple of elections.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things he brought up was this individual brought up was if actually before I say anything, I think it's TJ Kirk is he's the amazing atheist.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys heard about this guy, but I think the video he just came out surprisingly today was about why he doesn't vote. And so when he was actually going through like 70-something% of the American people support Medicare for all, 60-something of 60-something% of Americans vote or support marijuana legalization. And then he kind of went down the line of a few other things that overwhelmingly you can imagine that when polled, Americans do support. But the Democratic Party usually, or at least those issues should fall under the Democratic Party's wings of a platform, but they don't, because their only platform is literally just fuck the president.
Yeah. Well,
and that's it.
Can anyone else tell me what they've been hearing from the Democrats as far as policies. Honestly, you know.
Yeah. You know. Yeah, I think in a gist, that is kind of, I say, the DNC's overall policies, just to really just spite the president. Now there are wings on, you know, further on the progressive side of the Democratic Party that have promoted, you know, Medicare for all and free education. Oh, another one was free education, free college.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that majority of Americans support as well, at least when polled. And
well, and is it a majority of Americans,
Mm-hmm.
or is it a majority of voters?
I think they say that the majority of Americans.
Okay, so
But
every Tom,
but
Dick,
this
and
is kind
Harry.
of, but yeah. But the funny thing is that over 40% of the eligible voting population refuses to vote.
Yeah.
Either refuses or just doesn't vote.
And you know, to a certain extent, I don't blame them. There's a huge opportunity cost of, you know, understanding what's going on politically enough to make an informed decision, and it just doesn't make sense for most people.
Or either if it doesn't make sense for most people, or at least in the Amazing Atheist case, he understands what's going on. It's just that the 2 or 3 choices that come out don't represent him in any fathomable, you know, represent him as a voter and a citizen.
Yeah, and in that case, it's not worth the opportunity cost of going and starting your own political party or running for office yourself.
Yeah,
which is also fine as well. Why are we shaming people into voting or not doing what they, you know, whatever it is that they want to do?
Yeah. That's in itself an interesting conversation. That's an interesting conversation in itself. It's just because there is kind of like this shame on people who don't vote, and it's so like so. One of the things is like, oh, you don't vote, so you shouldn't have a say in the political in the political discourse. It's like, well, there's a reason why they're not voting is because of the political discourse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could be part of it. You know, who knows that there's a myriad of reasons why people wouldn't vote, and you know, why is it our job to shame people into voting? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Also, think about how many people who are voting who are so massively uninformed that are canceling out your votes.
Yep. See, if you're not informed, I'm not going to block you from voting, but I wouldn't promote, you know, you going down to the polls.
Yeah.
You know.
I think there should be, you shouldn't vote, or at least there should be a law that says you shouldn't vote unless you actually understand what you're voting on. So at least maybe take a test on.
Oh, there should be a
when you're actually
test?
voting on.
Yeah, okay,
that's worked out real well in the past.
Actually, support or not support. What do you think about that?
Unfortunately, the second you say voting test, you're gonna have issues with a large number of people, including myself.
Yeah, what I was gonna say was like that kind of goes into murky territory. It's like, oh, you need to take a test on what the political reality is. Yeah, how about if there's only one political reality?
Well, I mean, what if
only provides one political reality?
What if they only hand the test out to people with certain skin colors? I think that's the issue that crops up with tests.
I think
is that historically accurate, Mikey?
I think there should be tests for furries. People who are furries and who want to vote, there should be tests, and they should not be able to vote. But that's all right. That's a side note because they're degenerates. Degenerates. That's a total side note. But I think we kind of got off track when it comes to the whole when it comes to Kavanaugh, because I think probably the biggest part of this whole hearing process is the allegation that was made against him, and just kind of how funny how that allegation is played out. especially after he got confirmed. Because who's that lawyer that they're all going after now?
Avenatti.
Avenatti. Oh, they liked Avenatti when Stormy Daniels started making all those accusations against Trump, or at least at least was it a couple months ago?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least a month or 2 months ago, and now that he's like enemy number one because he's the one who ruined the investigation under Brett Kavanaugh.
Well,
because he muddied the waters.
Yeah, apparently they didn't like the third accuser coming in and saying that there were rape trains being run on women at these parties, that she went to like 10 different ones.
Keg-powered rape trains?
Oh, Lord. If I actually thought that was happening, that would be completely horrifying and something we shouldn't laugh at. But I think in the context, we can all fairly credibly assume that this was all complete nonsense, and the only reason it was brought up is to delay Kavanaugh's confirmation as long as possible, in the hopes that it gets past November 6th and the Republicans lose the Senate, so they look bad confirming him, as a lame duck Senate if the Democrats end up winning, which is a very long shot.
Yeah, and well, they can't do it anymore because he's already been confirmed. But I mean, that's what Well, that was their hope. That was the hope. That was the Hail Mary they were throwing up. Yeah.
And
see, it wasn't so bad under Gorsuch because it was still just a 5-4 split.
Well, it also wasn't close enough to an election to give them any kind of an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of the bigger factors. A, it was replacing Scalia, so it was an even trade, and B, it was a year and a half before, November 6, 2018. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I only say when it comes to this Kavanaugh hearing, and probably maybe this is something that's late. Kind of has been residing now, at least in the Democratic part of the Senate, was in 2016, just before the election, where more or less they allowed the Republicans to stall the nomination of President Obama, at the time President Obama's nomination to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Garland,
and which. Some people have said that it's unconstitutional. Whatever your take is on that, but
well, I mean, it's not unconstitutional. A Supreme Court justice must be nominated with the both advice and consent of the Senate. So it doesn't provide a timeline under which it has to provide consent. And here's the thing: they didn't provide consent. Obama didn't withdraw his nomination and put somebody else up for the Senate to confirm. So ultimately, what I was trying to get at was they kind of shot themselves in the foot because they could have pressured, the president, and at least the Democratic minority could have pressured their person to go through. Right? They could have put up more resistance. They really couldn't have done much else.
They could too much, but they would have. Something. But at least how I view it is that they sat and they're like, okay, we're gonna wait till Hillary gets elected.
Well, that was the problem. They couldn't yell and scream too much about Merrick Garland because that would have riled up Republicans and would have made their Hillary Clinton victory less assured, which obviously it wasn't very assured to begin with. So it would have been bad politics for them to bring up the Garland situation is the problem.
Well, I don't know, because I think they could have brought it up, knowing that at least at the time of his nomination and just before the election, like literally right before the election, everybody was in the zeitgeist, at least in the conscience of everybody, that, or up to maybe a few people, that Trump was actually going to win. Right? It was Hillary was going to have it in the bag. It was going to be an easy. It was going to be a sure thing that Hillary was going to get elected. And so, as I say it, or at least how I see this whole thing going up, is that because they waited, or they put all their bets on Hillary Clinton beating Trump in the general.
Yep.
And when Trump got elected, then it's like, well, then this president's a lame duck, and then we're just going to wait for the president, which is within the Senate's right.
Yep.
Wait for the next president to make, at least to make the choice to replace Scalia. So, and then when they replaced with Gorsuch, yeah, as you said, it's not too bad because Gorsuch is no Scalia, and even Kavanaugh.
Well, no,
really is
Kavanaugh's definitely not, but Gorsuch was about as close as you're going to get.
Yeah.
To a replacement for Scalia, so.
I mean, it's still Scalia though.
Yeah.
But and I think that's what it is that, okay, cool, they got a replacement to Scalia, but it was still the 5-4 split. And now that, Andrews? No. Who's the guy who stepped down?
Kennedy?
My bad. Why did I say Andrews? Kennedy.
I don't know.
When Kennedy dropped out, and now it's a 6-4 split, or a 5-4, 6-3, 6-3 split.
No, it's 5-4.
Still a 5-4?
Yeah. So it was kind of a 4.5, because Kennedy broke ranks and voted more left on I think it was abortion and one other topic. So it was kind of balanced, in the topics that Democrats really cared about. Kennedy sided with the Democrats. When it came to what Republicans really cared about, Kennedy kind of sided with the Republicans on a couple issues.
Are you talking about Roberts?
I'm talking about Kennedy.
About Kennedy?
Yeah.
I saw Chief Justice Roberts being that.
So now it's going to fall on Roberts being kind of that swing vote. You'll see him go to the left a little bit more than the other justices, especially more than Thomas or Gorsuch or Kavanaugh now.
Yeah, because it's Ginsburg, Kagan, and Sotomayor, and then it's Roberts, Thomas, Gorsuch. I think there's one more that we're missing.
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
Yeah, I think we're missing one. Oh.
So we have John Roberts is the Chief Justice. He swings a little bit more to the right. Clarence Thomas a little bit to the right. You missed Breyer, Stephen Breyer.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
I believe he's more to the left. Ginsburg's to the left. Alito's to the left. Alito. I think Alito's more to the right, because Sotomayor's definitely left and Kagan's definitely left.
Alito is right. Yeah. Alito, because it was Alito and Scalia. They were the two hardline conservatives on the court.
I didn't realize Bush got 2 nominations.
Yep.
Both in his second term.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad got to nominate Thomas, I believe. Yeah, it had to have been his dad. And then Obama got 2. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Sotomayor and Kagan.
Who did they replace? Because I don't remember that process at all. I guess in 2009 and 2010 I was just so defeated I wasn't paying attention.
The only thing I really remember about the at least Kagan wasn't really that interesting. She followed up after Sotomayor.
Mm-hmm.
But what was funny about Sotomayor was everybody was so super excited because she immigrated from Puerto Rico.
Oh. Okay.
That's probably the most notable thing I remember about that. That was the biggest thing on the news. It was like she immigrated from Puerto Rico and she moved, I believe, to Brooklyn or to New York City, where then she, grew up and went to, went to some pretty good schools. And I don't know. Actually, I would imagine out of most of the justices there, well overqualified. But
who is? They all are?
Sotomayor.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's not that she actually worked in criminal law, as both prosecutor and as a defense attorney. She also worked in business and patents. So Sotomayor did patent law for a while as well. So that's something that I remember off the top of my head.
Interesting.
Think.
That's cool.
So yeah, and she actually spent more time as a judge than before she got nominated than many of the other justices on the court. So, which was also very interesting.
Gotcha.
But besides that, so now in his first term, so Trump has 2 appointees in his first term, and there also might be a hint that Ginsburg, he might have to replace either Breyer or Ginsburg here fairly soon.
Well, I mean, Ginsburg looks half dead as it stands. She's fallen asleep everywhere. Can't remember which president it is. As much as everyone hates Trump, she can't even remember Trump's president. So,
yeah,
don't know how much of a part of the resistance she is. Did you hear the reports about different groups saying that they were gonna form a human shield around her and donate organs to her and all this crazy stuff?
to keep her alive.
Yeah, did you guys hear about any of that? Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
I didn't heard about that, but that's just that's a little far fetched. I don't know.
Oh yeah, well I mean,
I don't know how many organ surgeries.
She probably couldn't stand up to one. How old is Ginsburg?
Yeah,
no, she's in her
90s.
She's in her 80s.
Oh, 80. Oh, did I say 95? I meant 85.
She was born in 33, which would make her 85 years old, which 85. Is by no means young.
Well, I mean, at least from at least my grandpa, because my grandfather, he's 85, 86, or will be 86. Actually, no, he just turned 86. He went through 3 surgeries last year, and that took a lot out of him.
Yeah.
So, well, and they weren't as big surgeries as that's like replacing a heart or liver or a gallbladder or something like that. So,
yeah.
So I don't know how many organs you can put into Ginsburg to keep her alive before she literally just gives out from going under surgery. So they might have to this little group might have to rethink that.
Well, the Democrats have just whipped their base up into such a frenzy and a fervor against Trump and against, this Supreme Court that's going to kill women and take rights away and, just do all of the most horrible things you could possibly imagine. And I think it's absolutely criminal that the Democrats have been fomenting this sentiment,
Yeah, and they've done it under the pretext that we just want an investigation and make everything sure is fine, right? So what this whole allegation, it's like, well, we want the FBI to come in and investigate, and the idea is that maybe the allegation's not true, but we might find something, in this investigation because.
Oh yeah.
And I think this is has been a consequence and somewhat of a triumph of the Me Too movement. Is that someone throws an allegation one person's way, people investigate, and then they actually might find something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened with Cosby. That's what happened with Weinstein. That's what happened with a few other individuals. But for a significant of other people, it's just kind of just thrown them through the gutter.
Yeah.
And so this kind of like this mentality of we're just going to accuse somebody, completely tarnish them because we might be right, and if we're wrong, then oh well, we were wrong, and they kind of just move on to the next person. So
yeah,
it's just, I don't know, and so I like these senators, they're not going to apologize for what they did to Kavanaugh, like, especially Feinstein. Well, Feinstein. There we go. I can't say her name right, but but she's not going to apologize. Sitting there on TV crying, "Oh, we lost,"
Yeah.
It's like the saddest.
Wait,
moment.
she was on TV crying?
Yeah, a press conference after Brett Kavanaugh got confirmed. So. what do you call it? Yeah, so she was sitting there in the back, kind of just like all teary-eyed. Someone asked her if she was crying. She didn't respond. But yeah, no, she was crying. But you know, and much of this whole thing she started. So they went through, and so. But the thing is now, because everything's been so whipped up, and like again, you said, Ryan, in a fervor, like it doesn't matter what the truth is now, because everyone is kind of just taking their side.
Yeah.
On this, so like the left will always think that Kavanaugh was this gang rapist that just participated in either at least went around forcibly groping people. And at worst, being a keg-powered, rape train.
Yeah.
And then on the right, Kavanaugh did no wrong, and I don't know. There's really no middle ground in this, because there's at least some people at least pointed out to me. I don't know if they're true or not, but there are some things about the whole process that wasn't even that the allegation even involved with that were kind of suspicious, like Kavanaugh couldn't recall a significant amount of his cases as a federal judge.
Interesting.
He couldn't recall, but he can recall every detail in high school, but he can't recall the cases that much short, let's say much more previous, not much more previous, but more recent in time. There are also some cases that he judged on that. That the records were sealed by the administration, supposedly. So that was something I heard too. But that all got kind of pushed out of the way because of this allegation. So and it seems like, for me, a justice, or at least a justice to be, that can't recall, can't recall a significant amount of his cases that he presided over, and then
I think
that's more of a deal for me than an allegation that may or may not be true.
The problem is, as far as not recalling goes, it's far better for him to say that he doesn't recall something than for him to comment on something that he's not 100% sure on. So I'd much rather him, say, I can't recall, you'll have to read it for yourself. I stand by. I don't know if he said this, but if he said I stand by my decision, I could accept that.
Like I said, someone told. So this has been kind of told to me from, I would say from some on the left, right? And then that much of those cases that he did, let's say, preside over, the records were sealed.
Yeah.
So if they were going to ask the comment on it, he wouldn't be able to anyway.
Here's the thing: the senators can all see that for themselves, and at this point, we elect them to make those decisions for us, because we can't have all that information be public. And if we do or do not trust our elected representative, that's a different story. And if you don't, then you should start working towards getting them out of office. So obviously in a state like California, that's a fairly monumental task, but Wyoming or Delaware or wherever, those places, it's much easier to rile up a bunch of people and get somebody out of office.
Yeah. So how do you two feel about the new Lindsey Graham 2.0?
Oh man, it's amazing.
Now that McCain died, he has his nuts back.
You know what's been very telling to me? They're all the gay jokes that the left has been making about him. At what point did it become acceptable for the left to make fun of people for being gay?
Yeah, Republican.
No, I know he's a Republican, but obviously I'm not gay, so I can't understand if they should or shouldn't be outraged by it. But I feel like they should care. They're making fun of him for not. I don't know. It just seems like it's a very schoolyard bully type tactic. I got called gay as a kid.
I think we all
people
did.
were making fun of me. Obviously, but it also is something that I feel like the left has kind of shunned in the last decade or so,
supposedly
bullying people with that kind of language. It gets lumped, that would be lumped in there with calling somebody retarded. I feel, at least I feel like it should, but obviously
I like
the Democrats
saying those
don't
words.
Agree. Look, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to say them, but if your platform is inclusivity and fairness and equity and all the other things the Democrats stand for, tolerance, but they're being intolerant of him being a white man that may or may not be gay, that it just seems very intolerant for the tolerant left.
I kind of funny is that they've been calling him this now during the proceeding, like just during these proceedings. You know what I mean? So like yeah. I don't really recall the left calling Lindsey Graham gay.
Well, they just ignored him when he was McCain's sidekick. There wasn't any reason to pay attention to him. You would respond to McCain, but you wouldn't respond to Lindsey because who cares? He's just parroting whatever McCain said. But now that he's his own person, and you kind of got to see. Yeah, well, and you kind of got to see him get a little fired up for once. He didn't seem so much like a dead fish. So that was nice.
Because I used to call because I've said that Lindsey Graham is has been quite the homo. I think he still is, but at least he got a little worked up. So that's nice. Here's
the thing: we're not actually discussing what his sexuality is. No. They're making fun of him and calling him that because they believe he's bigoted towards it. You know what I mean? It's only an insult to someone if they think it's an insult. If being called gay just meant that you were fabulous and awesome and you had a bunch of money, which in general it does, but if it meant that to Lindsey Graham, it wouldn't be much of an insult. So. In order to hurl that insult at someone, you have to believe it's an insult yourself to some extent. Yeah. So it's just it's so hypocritical.
I mean, even Mitch McConnell got a little worked up too. Yeah. It seems like McCain really had held everyone's testicles in a jar, and then when he died, they all got him back, or at least got one of them back. Peace.
I don't think McCain was holding McConnell back. They didn't have the kind of relationship that him and Lindsey Graham did, but I think McConnell has been putting up with the nonsense from the left for a lot longer than any of us realize, and he's just fed up. It's with Kavanaugh and what they were doing. That's just so far beyond the pale.
Yeah, because I only really remember Mitch McConnell being that assertive and like that's at least just being assertive against Republicans that challenged him for his seat every 6 years.
Yeah.
Now that this whole so it seems like this proceedings have kind of like, I know a lot of things have kind of like awoken a sense. Except for Jeff Flake out of Arizona.
Well, fortunately he'll be gone.
And he's trying to and out of all people trying to push I can try to push political capital.
What do you how do you guys feel about November? What are your thoughts on what's going on the 6th?
At least how I view it, I think the Republicans will still keep the Senate. The House I think will be a little more up for grabs.
Okay.
Just because I don't know, because every seat's open, and there is still a lot of resentment that a lot of the base is still kind of worked up on both sides. So, and if the House does go, then that's something natural.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think that happened in Bush's presidency.
It happened in Obama's. It happened in Obama's as well.
So it seems like that's just kind of the equilibrium, or at least the starting of the equilibrium.
We'll see.
If things aren't perfect, then the House usually goes first, and then they slog towards the Senate for another 2 to 4 years, and then finally they'll have the president, and then the House, at least recently, then the House kind of changes back. So.
Yeah.
It seems like Americans just kind of want that counter, even if they disagree with it. They kind of just want that counter.
I think that everything's going so well right now. I don't think that there's a huge chance that they even take the House. You know,
that might be possible too.
And the lack of the message, I think that's huge. You know, especially Democrats who have such a problem getting their voters to show up at the polls. You've really got to give them a message of hope and here's what we can accomplish. You know, and right now their only message is impeach Trump, but I think everybody knows deep down that even if they do win a slight majority in the House, they can't draw up articles of impeachment. That's not a 51% vote. That's a 2/3, and they're not going to have nearly 2/3.
No. So if they do, and let's say, and they probably at this point, they might not be exhausted, but they might be feeling as defeated as, let's say, you felt in 2009 at this point, because it seems like everything that they've done has been so stalled, or has been stalled, overturned, or kind of worked around, that the political it seems like the political capital of the Democratic Party has just kind of been waning.
Yeah.
And I attribute it towards, I don't know, I think, at least in this country, I think that political parties tend to have a jar of morality tokens, and they start withdrawing morality tokens to make arguments. And I think they've just kind of, in a sense, taken so many tokens out of their jar that they don't really have anything left to be, for credibility. Yeah. You know, so like with the Kavanaugh thing, they accuse him, and then they run through this whole, stall the proceeding. They get the FBI involved. They get the administration involved. It's like, oh look, because we're doing it for morality. Morality tokens. They're just throwing morality tokens out there.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're running out of morality tokens in my sense.
Well, and I think that in addition to that, they're also not protecting the people that have historically sided with them. You know, they've had the black vote wrapped up for 60 years, and I think that's going to start unraveling November 6th. You know, you see the stuff going on with Kanye. He wore the Trump hat. Everybody gets upset, yells at him. He puts out the at the time the best-selling album of the year. Right after that, talking about his bipolar disorder, kind of humanizing him to a certain extent. You know, he's a much more relatable person after that album came out. He like I said, he talks about his bipolar disorder, calls it his superpower. You know, there's a certain demographic of people that are going to respond to that. Every time he's asked, he's saying that he's not necessarily supporting Trump, but he's trying to bridge the gap between the two parties and heal the country to a certain extent. And so he's kind of putting out a message of love, and we should all kind of work together to make the country better. And, I think that there, a week after he wore the hat, 22% of black men who are likely to vote were now siding with Republicans, when before that number was 11%. That's huge. And then I actually have a video that I want to try to show. It's from UFC last night. There were actually a couple different pro-Republican, pro-Trump victory speeches.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I'll play the biggest one for you guys. Let me get this over in the viewing area. Sorry, it's gonna kind of eat up your guys' screen.
That's fine.
Oh, nope, never mind. Guess we can't see it. Oh well. So let me try one more thing. Nope.
Unless you screen share that.
Oh no! I changed the setup a little bit, so you'll be able to see it next time, but we'll be able to hear it. So that's what really matters.
Okay.
So here we go.
Will those listening later
Yes.
be able to hear it too?
Everybody will be able to hear it. All right, you guys ready?
Derek Lewis, Derek, why'd you take your pants off? My balls was hot. I understand. Listen, man, what you just did was absolutely phenomenal. That was an incredible comeback victory, and it shows one of the reasons why people love to watch you fight, that you can put it all to bed with one shot.
I told them boys, I got number heart. You know, they keep underestimating me. I ain't all that technical and all that, but I'm getting there.
No one will question your heart, sir, after this. This is a come-from-behind knockout, the likes that we haven't seen in a long time. And you were looking for that big haymaker all night. You found it in the last minute of the fight.
I forgot, a few hours before the fight, Donald Trump called me and told me I got to knock this Russian out because they're making him look bad on the news. You know, him and Putin, they talking about USA in this whole.
Listen, Derek, you came into this fight the #2 contender with that knockout. You absolutely won.
So I think you guys heard the part that I was talking about.
Oh yeah, no, I don't. Maybe I think the guy's just joking around.
I don't know. Look, it doesn't matter if the call did or didn't happen. The fact is that's huge for Donald Trump. You can't see him. The guy's nicknamed the Beast, and he's a giant black man, and he's joking.
Oh, what's it? And this is Derek Lewis, right?
Yeah, his name is Derek Lewis, and the fact is he's joking about Donald Trump calling him like it's not a bad thing. So at the end of the day, that's a bonus to Trump, and I think there's a slight chance that Trump actually comes out and acknowledges this in his next rally, or in a tweet or something. Does you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and again, it doesn't matter if the call did or didn't happen. He claims it did. Trump probably won't claim it didn't. So as far as anyone's concerned, the call happened.
Yeah. And I see it as a joke. It's funny. I
No,
know what he's saying.
Definitely,
at least in a way of just of humor. So, but yeah, I think the results are still kind of the same.
Yeah, exactly. It puts Trump in a positive light regardless of why it happened. And then earlier in the prelims, one of the fighters that won there made a shout out to my homeboy Kavanaugh reference in his victory speech. Yeah.
Oh.
So, and on top of that, I think it's the 25-year anniversary of the UFC, and they're doing 25 like little documentary episodes, like half-hour-long documentary episodes, and one of them's gonna center around Trump and how he was an early supporter of the UFC, gave Dana White some like business advice, showed up to the first few events to kind of give it some publicity.
Yeah, because Dana White's been a big supporter of this president. And it's
because Trump stood by him when he had, basically nothing, and they were, bootstrapping this whole enterprise from like I said, nothing. And Trump wasn't even an investor or anything. He just liked the idea and, kind of gave it some legitimacy, which probably helped with the New York gaming. I don't know if it would be gaming, but whatever
the gaming commission.
Yeah, whatever the commission. Yeah. Having somebody like Donald Trump make it legitimate probably helps out a little bit, when you're going before them. So, I'm going to be interested yeah?
Because Donald Trump has been heavily in boxing for the longest time. Also, one of my favorite, what's become one of my favorite pieces of entertainment is professional wrestling, WWE. Donald Trump's always been involved. Actually, for a long time, Donald Trump was actually owner of the WWF at the time in the 90s. In the storyline.
Oh, okay.
So if you follow the storyline, it's always been what's his? I can't remember his name. It's terrible. Even though what's his name?
Vince McMahon?
Yeah, Vince McMahon. So like in the storyline, Donald Trump takes the WWF organization away from Vince McMahon, and then I forgot how he lost it.
Probably betting on a fight or something.
No. Like, I don't know, like in the ring. Like,
okay.
So he lost it in the ring.
Yeah.
So like I know at one point like Stone Cold Steve Austin and Donald Trump shave Vince McMahon in the middle of the ring. It's a great video. I think we have to have this as an intro. But
I can grab the video and we can play it at a later date. Just to get that set up.
Because but it's great about it, and I think, and we have to give props to Stone Cold Steve Austin for this. I think now that every U.S. president will have to have the qualifier, as Trump is right now, the only president and the only leader in human history to receive a Stone Cold Stunner from Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I have to say though, I think every person running for president, which people have been like saying The Rock, or hoping that The Rock might run, he's received it.
Can we put him up? Can we put him up against Vince McMahon in an actual like wrestling match? That, you know, I think that should be a qualification. Trump already went up. He did it. He tackled him and did the whole 9 yards.
Yeah,
that's how he got to shave his head.
But I would say the Stone Cold, the Stunner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say if Rock does run for president in 2020, he's received a Stunner, and he most likely will win. So thank you, Stone Cold Steve Austin, for doing this.
Yeah.
Because I want every U.S. president has to receive a Stunner.
But
at some point, at least candidate. My bad.
But to kind of wrap it back around to my original point, you know, the Derek Lewis being a black man and speaking the way he was about Donald Trump, you know, obviously Kanye West, you know, Donald worked with Kim and got that pardon for the African American woman. I mean, if you look at what Donald Trump is doing, he is reaching out to the black and minority communities in really huge ways, and it's and I think it's going to have an effect in November. You know, if you move any of these congressional races by 1 or 2%, that's the margin of victory. You know, that turns the tides completely, and
I think it's something that's being overshadowed. At least it's being overshadowed in the media by the media.
Yeah.
But it's something that on the back end, they're gonna look at it and go like, you know, what's going on here? Why did we didn't see this? Well, because you've been organizing rallies with ugly fat white women.
Well, and the other problem is the polls are all being done on people who are likely to vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
This may activate people that weren't likely to vote to go out and vote for the first time because they think that there's some reason to. Because again, that's what it boils down to. People need to have a reason to take the time to fill out that ballot at home and mail it in and find a stamp. Okay, like as trivial as that sounds, that's a big enough barrier in most people's lives that they just don't do it. Or you know, actually having to get up and, you know, go down to a polling place, that's a monumental feat for a number of people. And
well, I mean, I wouldn't say like in my case it'd be like a monumental feat, but it was kind of an inconvenience, especially when I moved here. Was because my old polling place was in a different district in Santa.
Yeah. That
I would have to go to, you know, so which is like a 15 or 20 minute drive from here. It's just so it's kind of like.
Well, and look, is it a big enough inconvenience that if you were to get $100 you wouldn't do it? No, of course not. But it's a big enough inconvenience that when the payoff is the same person gets elected that would have gotten elected if I didn't show up, or the person trying to get me to show up that I would vote for doesn't have a compelling message, or isn't telling me what they're going to do except, you know, impeach Trump, who I kind of support because I've got a job and my friends all have jobs and, you know, we're actually making some money. The message that the Democrats are trying to sell is just so far off base as far as I can see. I mean, I'm obviously not an absolutely rabidly insane liberal, so I don't understand that mindset, but that can't be a very large percentage of the population. You know, that's got to be such a minority.
Well, it could. Well, maybe that percentage falls within the margins of those who don't vote.
Yeah.
You know, because they look at, let's say, They look at the Republicans. They don't like the Republican Party. They don't like conservatives, conservatism or the values and the platform they stand for.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at the Democratic Party, it's just it's an empty platform. They don't really have anything.
Yep.
They're more on the side of what do you call it? They're more on, like I said, just chatting over again, impeach Trump and kind of that nonsense. While at the same time, they're kind of doing the same things that the Republicans are doing for how they view it. So like the thing like on the left, like the Democrats are just Republican light.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they view them. And so it's like this whole impeachment process doesn't really work or really help them. So why vote?
Yeah.
Why drive 20 minutes to go vote? Or why go to vote and then go to work? Or why go to work and then go vote when you can just do something else?
Exactly.
Because nothing for you as the voter is going to change. So, and I think that's going to be I think a significant factor,
Mm-hmm.
Especially in this upcoming election.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely.
But I would say if for conservatives out there, don't like this whole. If you believe we're on the streak of winning, don't kind of sit down with their. Don't sit on your hands. Go vote.
Yeah. Well, and I think that everything the Democrats have done has been to tell Republicans you have to get out and vote. It was a 50-48 narrow victory for Kavanaugh. I mean, they legitimately had Mike Pence on standby in case they needed to do a tie-breaking vote. So this was not something that was guaranteed to happen, and the Democrats definitely did everything in their power to signal that to Republicans too. That's the problem with their messaging is they're telling Republicans, look, if you don't show up, us crazy people are gonna get into office or stay in office and have more power. So,
and it seems like as I mentioned earlier about Obama's failed nomination,
mm-hmm.
and how I view it, how the Democrats kind of sat and waited for Hillary to win for them to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
it's like you can't sit and wait for Trump to do what you want him to do. Like, you have to go out and you have to keep it going, because if you follow that same mindset, you're just going to turn that over.
Yeah,
because right now, as polarized and divided things are, it's only by a very small margin which platform gets chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And so and so for conservatives out there who want to keep the winning streak going, you gotta go out this election. You have to go out the next these elections.
Yep.
So.
All right.
And I think that's the moral lesson of, let's say, the Kavanaugh thing is
mm-hmm.
don't wait for a candidate to come in and save your platform.
Yeah.
That's right at that point. That's just hubris.
Yep.
And I think that's what the Democrat, personally, that's for me, that's what the Democratic Party's been sitting on right now. It's been sitting on hubris, and it's been sitting on an empty jar of morality coins.
Well, and I think that they've bought into their own BS. I think that they believe the news is unbiased and that the people are actually supportive of them. I think that they actually believe that they've actually bought their own lies because they've been telling them for so long. And now it's finally gotten to a point where we don't need the New York Times to be the paper of record. We don't need CBS to have Tom Brokaw or whoever it was, reading us the news every night, from a trusted source. We go out, we find the people that we like, and we follow them wherever they are, mm-hmm. and that's across multiple different dimensions. You have the internet, you have podcasts, you have Facebook, YouTube, along with Fox News and CNN. And I think for most consumers, those are fairly interchangeable sources. It's not that CNN is seen as more credible than whoever your favorite podcaster is. Whoever your favorite podcaster is probably has a lot of goodwill built up, and you probably trust them for whatever reasons you've decided to trust them, So it's and I
But
don't think yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I mean,
I'm rambling.
I was gonna,
so.
yeah. I mean, but this is the age of. I mean, well, right now, mainstream media for a couple of years now, at least for the last 5 years, lowest ratings, across the board.
Oh yeah, well, TV's
we
just got terrible ratings in general.
We have, at least if you want to just look on the YouTube, on the YouTube verse, only there's one man who puts in more views a day than, let's say, a cable network news show puts in a month.
Yep.
Or a couple of months. And people go, this was something, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the whole PewDiePie thing that happened a year or two ago with the Washington Post. When the Washington Post went in and made a hit piece on this YouTuber who is the biggest YouTuber in the world.
Yep. He still is, correct? Like, that didn't hurt him. They didn't take him down.
No, but
probably more
this was
this
was the important thing, right? They went through 6 months of content, right? And this is a guy who uploads like 2 or 3 videos a day.
Yep.
So they went through 6 months of content. Let's say on average 2 or 3 videos a day. They went through, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of hours,
hundreds
and/or thousands of hours,
yeah,
to extract 2 minutes to write this hit piece on it,
yep.
right?
Well, and the crazy thing is, anymore you can take clips and edit things and make it seem like you're saying something that you're not even saying.
That's pretty much what they did.
Yeah. If you do it right, you don't even need to actually edit the clip. You just need to clip it right. It starts here and ends here, so you think he's talking about X when he's really talking about Y.
Was it the Washington Post or was it the Wall Street Journal?
I think it was WAPO, probably because he's not on Amazon. He's on or Twitch. So my guess is it was probably the Washington Post. Because he's a YouTuber, which is owned by Google. When the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, which owns Twitch. So the Twitch is a competing service that I don't believe PewDiePie is on.
I think he might be.
That's just a guess.
Yeah.
I know that he's on.
Yeah. Hold on, but I'm trying to figure out history, blah blah blah, influence. I'm trying to figure out if it was. I think it was the Wall Street Journal. Personally.
Yeah, so it looks like somebody saved PewDiePie, and he's verified, but there are 0 videos under that account.
Yeah.
So my guess is it was the Washington Post. That's a guess.
It's a guess. I think it was the Wall Street Journal that.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to, like I said, I'm gonna have to take a rain check on that one. I think, but it was either one or two of them, or it was either one of. It was something that started with a W. Yeah, so maybe it was the.
In February of 2017, Washington Post, anti-Semitic jokes caused YouTube Disney to withdraw support or something.
Yeah. Here, 1 second.
Nah, it's okay. We don't need to go.
Hold on. I think. Give me just a minute. I think I can get it up.
Okay.
It was the Wall Street Journal.
Well,
right. And
my theory goes to
and
crap.
So it was these guys from the Wall Street Journal. Now, and so what I'm trying to get at is that even the Wall Street Journal, right, use it on the outside, or at least off the top of your head, right? It's viewed as like an economic paper, right? And it's just basic economics, like kind of like Bloomberg, right? Like at least how people have viewed, at least how I viewed before this, how I viewed the Wall Street Journal as just being kind of like another kind of Bloomberg business paper that was fairly credible, that people always, cited and sourced, especially when making arguments about the economy. But they do this hit piece on PewDiePie. The funny thing was that they that there was, I forgot who actually did the poll or the study, or it was a poll, and it was actually through PewDiePie's target audience. It's like 14 to maybe 20 something.
Yep.
But relatively, teenagers. And so they asked 2 questions. And first question is, do you know PewDiePie? Do you know of PewDiePie? And what's your favorite ability? So like most of them, knew PewDiePie, and most of them had a favorable rating.
Okay.
It's like, so do you? And then they asked another set of questions: was do you know of the Wall Street Journal? And they're like, yes. And what is your favorability? It was mostly unfavorable.
Yeah, big thumbs down.
And so now what they've shot themselves in the foot, and more or less, print media and just big media, or what I've heard is legacy media.
Yep.
As a term, has shoot themselves in the foot, especially when going up against going against like new content creators, new ways of finding information and stuff like that. It's because more people view them, and when you maliciously attack somebody with no evidence, you're angering actually more people than that paper pulls in a year.
Yep.
This person pulls in a day.
Yep.
And I mean, and this is old ground that we're treading over, but I mean, I believe this has happened now, and I think it's, in your case, you said that they actually believe the lie now.
I think so.
They're not even lying.
Yeah, I think that they're buying their own fake news.
That's strange. That sucks.
Yeah.
But
well, it sucks for them because they're gonna lose. I think it's only good for Republicans. And as much of a Republican as I am, and I absolutely think that Republicans have vastly better ways of running the country than Democrats do. I do think that there is a place for a strong second party, another group of ideas to challenge mine.
I think there has to.
Yeah.
Because it's, at least in the business world, I've heard it explained to me, is that liberals create things and conservatives run things. So you have a more liberal, open-minded person starting something, and then you have a conservative to run his business.
Yep.
Run something. So you need the same thing in the country. You need a party that more or less runs everything. You need a party that innovates.
Yep.
And so no, I think there has to be room for, I think, more than a second party.
Well,
if the idea or if the goal is a discourse.
The problem is we'd have to fundamentally change the way that we do elections, and I don't want to see that personally. So I think there's only ever, as far as our systems is set up, you're only ever going to have 2 strong parties. But if you look at the ideological differences among Republicans, they're huge. So I mean, if you could have the same kind of ideological differences in the Democrat Party, we would have the same number of ideas and the same ability for those ideas to take hold of the group as you would in Europe, but it would just be within the context of those two parties.
Yeah,
because libertarians are not remotely close to Republican, neocon Republicans. Those are but they can both get behind, appointing somebody like Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, right?
Yeah. One thing and maybe this is maybe because I'm kind of going, at least in my mind, the idea of hubris is kind of still resonating.
Yep.
And I think this is something that also conservatives need to be aware. Like I've already stated about elections, but also kind of buying our own bullshit.
Yeah.
In a sense.
The Republicans absolutely need to stay on top of their game, but and I think Trump is keeping Republicans at the top of their game, because even those inside the party that oppose Trump, they have to be the best version of themselves that they can be if they hope to effectively oppose him and the way he's taking the party. So
I'm just saying, just overall, because it's not just it's not, let's say, the president, or let's say if it's not the president, it's not in the case of the Kavanaugh hearings, let's say the Senate, right? It's not just our senators, right? Or at least on the Democratic side, it's not just the senators, it's the representatives, it's the media folk, it's the people running out in the middle of the street, right?
Yeah.
They all equitably, more or less, believe the lie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in same intensity and same scale.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see something like that happen to, let's say, the Republican Party or the conservative faction, because then we just look as bad.
That would be
and also
horrible.
number two, we then start sitting on our hands and start, you know, huffing our own farts, and how mighty are we?
Well, and that's one of the things that at the grassroots level, I love going to the CSUF Republican meetings every week, and every week there's somebody in that room that I have a discussion with where we disagree, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not like we're all lockstep in line with each other the way that the Democrats, you know, are kind of forced to be. So it's really nice, you know?
No. So, I mean, just hopefully it just comes out turning into a better party.
Yeah. Well, and
we'll see.
I hope they figure it out. You know, I don't want them to take power in the crazy state that they're in, but I hope that they figure it out and become a little bit less crazy. Did you guys have some kind of final thoughts? I got some back end stuff I got to work on here on my end.
Kevin?
I just want to say, in regards to Kavanaugh being confirmed, I really didn't care so much whether he was confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
Him being pro-life. I'm not pro-life, so it didn't really matter to me. Because even if he was not confirmed, Trump would have nominated someone else, and who would have been pro-life, and he probably would have been confirmed.
Or
but
she.
The reason why I'm sort of celebrating why Kavanaugh was confirmed is just because it made the left so angry. And I imagine that there are a lot of people like me who have been pushed more to the right just because of this whole circus that was this investigation and the hearings and all that.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
I kind of agree with that. I didn't even know that he was being confirmed until I heard about the being, let's say, going through the committee and going through the process until the allegations.
Oh, yeah.
So I literally didn't know that we had another person on step to become a justice until the allegations. So that's how far behind I've been. And that's how kind of, let's say, how drawn to entertainment I am. Yeah. Because I got to tell you, however this turned out, it's going to be very entertaining. Yeah. So,
well, and
that's my piece on it.
You know, we were saying earlier, it's likely that Trump, even in the next 2 years, might have another Supreme Court nomination to make. Now, it depends on what happens in November, whether or not that person gets confirmed. But you know, it's definitely something that that's gonna come up again in the next 2 years. So, something to look out for. It was really great getting to talk to you guys again. It's been a minute.
It's the hiatus is over, I believe. So.
Yep. So I've got some time. I can do a couple more live streams this week if we want to try to set that up. But we'll do that offline and let everybody know about that later.
All right. Cool. Yeah, cool. I'm down. So no, I mean, it's glad to be back on camera because, you know, it's just you know, at least I have to amend some things from the past that.
Yeah, it's all water on the bridge, under the bridge. No.
Oh yeah, no, I know that, about. But you know, I gotta, you know, we gotta kind of bury it under content because you know something might come up where they might be going through all this, and it's just like, you know, you like that bottle of whiskey too much. I don't know if you can.
You can't serve on the Supreme Court now.
That's right. I drank beer. I like beer. I still like beer. You know, so I would say out of all this, kegs out for Kavanaugh. Break one open, tap it out.
I can definitely tell you that the reports of different groups, you know, having a toast to Kavanaugh because of that whole beer comment, absolutely true. After UFC was over and we watched that whole mess at the end, we all went and cracked open a beer and cracked one open for Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh, yeah. So crack those beers out and keep cracking them up. But
so that was definitely not some fake
What was
news.
The whole mess at the UFC? I don't remember. Like I didn't see it. So
we'll talk about that
later
offline.
Okay, we'll talk about it later offline. All right.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Good night.